Okay. Hey, what's happening, Tim with Nomad Trading? Run a recap. A little bit later than usual. I was actually at the store trying to get plumbing supplies. Still dealing with this annoying plumbing thing, but finally, I think I'm going to have it fixed today, so I'm excited about that. Anyway, in the markets today, let's look and see what was hot. Kind of a slower day, in my opinion. Again, I guess there were some stocks to trade, just not quite as exciting as we've seen. I guess we were kind of spoiled with all those really exciting weeks, so now what seems a little bit more mundane is probably still exciting, just not in comparison to other weeks we've had in the past year. Okay, let's settle in here. What did I trade? Okay, so my PNL today, the only stock I really watched closely today, and I was in and out again today because I had an actual professional plumber come here and we got cameras and scoped out my pipes and all that. So while I've been in and out of the office all day, but I did manage to squeak out decent profit on Bngo. So realized 177.50 in profit on that. Had I held it longer or gotten back in it, which I was looking to do when I ended up having to run to the store, and I didn't really want to be away from my desk while in the position, so I didn't take the trade, but it would have been a nice winner, or I could have set my stop a little farther out, and I'd still be probably holding it and looking even better because this was a short on Bngo. I'll show you what I had going on. Kind of like showing my trades first anyway. So that way, and I lost 60 in my E-Trade account trying to go long on this, and then I switched my bias. You kind of roll with the punches. So I will talk about that. Let me jump back over here. Okay. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, all those wonderful YouTube algorithm things. Okay, so what I traded today was Bngo. It's important to read the stock as a scalper anyway. If you're a swing trader, not as much. I scalp, so I'm in and out quick, which means that I am looking at level 2 a lot of the time, which is why it's crucial to have a level 2. That's why I don't like Power E-Trade or some of the online type platforms that need like a full platform with a full level 2, is because I'm reading this a lot of the time. So what I was seeing, if I zoom in just a little bit here, I was kind of watching it consolidate to see what happened. And I actually took a trade on this candle here, this green candle here, as it started to perk up. I'll take my lines off of there, even though they're somewhat relevant, but the lines weren't as clear, the trends weren't as clear on this stock as other stocks, but that is what I had on there. So I was looking at this, came up, popped back down off of VWAP, ripped up again. This is a stock that was below $1 a couple of days ago, and it's up on news that they got 180-day extension to regain NASDAQ compliance to stay as a NASDAQ stock. So that's the news that it's been running on. And it did have other news previous days, but that was the news today, the only news that I saw anyway. So it had news. It was up big on the day. It was a 2-day move from yesterday. It was up pretty good yesterday, and then today, continuation. And pulled back to VWAP, ripped back up. And then I was watching it. I was kind of watching it in here, but didn't really plan to take a trade. I thought it would kind of fade back, but then when it got strong, came up here, pulled back, hung around above VWAP, and then this candle right here, where it started to make a new high on this 5-minute chart, I thought that it was going to go back to retest highs because of the volume. At that time, it had traded like, I don't know, somewhere around 500 million shares, which is a ton of volume. So I was thinking, hey, this is where all the eyes are. it's staying above VWAP and above the moving averages. This could be the point at which it finally rips back up and goes back, and I would be looking to get out below $3. So I was going to scalp that move from this candle up. Then it started having trouble in this 260 range. So as I'm watching it and it's having trouble in the 260s, I ended up, and I had bought at the higher end of this candle. So then as I'm watching it and it's kind of having trouble there on these, this is a 5-minute chart. So on the 1-minute chart, you would have been able to see it a little bit better maybe. But it starts pulling back here. It couldn't break 263, I believe it was. It seemed like there was a wall. Every time it would hit 263, 264, just tons of sellers would come in on the level 2, and it just couldn't really break through that. And then when it did pop through, it'd come right back down. So I saw that having trouble there, and I sold for a loss, a $60 loss, and I flipped my bias to short bias, and then I short in my CMEG account, not in my E-Trade account. So I go over to my CMEG account, took 500 shares short in the 260s, I think around 262 or so, and then had my stop placed just above where I saw all that resistance. And if it had ripped up, I would have been stopped out. But turns out it played out nicely. We got this beautiful washout. Then it started kind of consolidating. I thought that it would come back down farther and it would go red on the day. That was my original plan. But as it kept consolidating here, I started thinking maybe it would curl back up. It did have insane volume, and it does have somewhat of news. So those two things mixed in, it could still rip back up. So I set my stop kind of tight because I wanted to make sure I had profit. So I took half of my profit down in here, and then I set the rest as a stop. I think it was 220. Yeah, it had gone up here, come back down and consolidated. So just above these tops here, I think I set my stop at like 227 or somewhere around there. I didn't want to hold it all the way up, back up to here and back up to VWAP and give back quite a bit of gain if it had come up and then faded. Didn't want to be stopped out up here, so I decided to play it safe and just secure the profit. And of course, it ticked up right to my stop at 227 or 228 right in there, and then ended up fading all the way back down under $2. So that's the way it goes. I was away from my computer at that point. I set my stop, walked away from the computer, started dealing with the plumbing issue again, and then it stopped me out right before washing out more. So now I'm still short bias on it. It does have crazy volume, so you can't rule out the possibility of a spike, especially in the morning. But if I was going to guess, I would say it might pop back up here in the 220s, 230s, and then end up fading back down under $2. Kind of back where it came from. That's my opinion on what's going to happen. If you look at let me zoom out a little bit. If you look at this trend line here, this is 2 days. So for 2 days, it's been following this trend line to a T. And that was, I was going to go short again. After I got stopped out there, I was watching it in here before I left to go get plumbing parts. And I was going to short it if it broke that trend line. And of course, by the time I got back in here, it had already washed out completely. So that's the way it goes. You can't win them all. You can't get all the trades. Still a nice green day of whatever, 110 or 112 profit between the two accounts that I traded. And my goal is $100 a day, which I've been hitting pretty consistently for the better part of 2 weeks or so. So I can't complain about it. Anytime I can hit my $100 a day goal, that's a good day. Of course, I left a lot on the table, but that's just the way it is. I was proud of myself for switching my bias, because a lot of times if I'm long biased, I get that in my head and have a hard time switching and going the other way. But this one just felt like it was getting toppy and having a real hard time in the 260s. And turned out that was correct. Dustin asked, did I get my plumbing fixed? Yes and no. So yeah, my plumbing, I had a plumber come and we snaked it out again, which I'd already done down my main line. And then this is what I've been dealing with for weeks now. got it all cleaned out. Then we stuck a camera down, and I went ahead and paid the money just to run his camera down to see what was going on. And there is a fitting that's bad about 90 feet from my house, and that's where it keeps getting stopped up. So it's good for now, but it's not permanently fixed. It could be a week, or it could be, a year before it gets stopped up again. There's no way to know, but it is flowing for now. But of course, on the same day that I get that problem solved, my downstairs toilet starts leaking. So that's why I went to the store this afternoon. I'm tired of doing plumbing stuff, so I got the main plumbing issue fixed for now, and then the toilet started leaking from the tank, so I went and got parts so that way I could fix my toilet and be done with plumbing, hopefully, for a while. Knock on wood. Anyway, back to the market. So Bngo was the main one of the day that I saw, that I was watching all day. And like I said, it's more of a short to me now, unless it can get back above that trend line. And then I might start looking at it long again. But it's got a lot of consolidation in this area right here between 210-ish and maybe 225-ish. We had that over here. We have it on this side, and now it's broken below the trend line. So it kind of bounced off of the 200 moving average, which is this light blue line right here. It bounced off of that, but now it's looking like it may continue to fade, and that's what I would expect it to do, would be continue to fade into tomorrow. Maybe it fades after hours, gets a spike or a pop in the morning, back up towards that trend line. But again, if it can't break that and keep going up, making the move, then I'm looking more short. The news is not that great either. Having an extension for your compliance for NASDAQ is not that great of news. It doesn't mean the company's fundamentally changed or anything. So more likely that this fades back down closer to where it came from. Anyway. The main plumbing issue's fixed, my friend. So that's the little toilet issues, no big deal. I can fix all that, no problem. It's digging up my yard that I was trying to avoid. Well, let's see what else we had that was hot today. NOVN, that was one that was popping up. It's got a big gap right here that it still hasn't really filled on the daily chart. This is the daily chart for 2 years. If we zoom in just a little bit on the 1 year, we can see that it does have a history of popping up and fading back. So we've got that to contend with. That is the reason why whenever I saw it up here, I wasn't really too excited about it. I didn't see any new news on it either that accounts for why it's gone from the 70-cent area to over $1.10 at one point. So it's a pretty nice move. It's just that I don't really see any news. There could be news. I haven't looked that far into it or dug into it, but I didn't see any popping up on my two platforms. And with it having a history of popping up and fading back, I'd be more likely to think of it as a short than a long, unless it can get up here past the high of this candle, which would be 134. So in my humble opinion, it would need to get past 134, have some volume, preferably some news, and then we might see that rip to close that gap over there. Could happen. We will keep it on watch. Also, BT was moving again today. This is another continuation move. Let's see, it was 3 days maybe? Yeah, so we had a nice move a couple days ago where it went from the sixes up to, let's see, 1250-ish. And I remember we were talking about that on one of our videos. And then it pulled all the way back here below 10s, and I made some money on this shorting it, I believe, but I can't remember. Anyway, rips back up today, and it did break that previous high. So it came up, it washed out back below VWAP, not the best of signs, but and that was, at market open. Started to flush at market open just before market open, and then ripped up, turned around, reversed, and ripped up. So it's kind of a bull trap, or a bear trap, right there. But then it curls up and breaks the previous high of day, and still kind of going, kind of following the 50 moving average. So Would have been difficult to trade here. Could have bought the high of daybreak there and had a nice little scalp on that from 1470-ish to, maybe if you were real lucky, you could have got $1 or held through that first dip and then got $1 out of it. But either way, even if you got 70 cents out of it, pretty good scalp. That move right there from the previous high of daybreak up into this strength. So, had a little bit of opportunity there. Or this morning, if you were watching it early pre-market and saw that it was, let me zoom out just a hair farther. Yeah, so if you're watching it pre-market and saw it passing this level here, where it kind of consolidated and it was breaking out past that level, that could have also been a trade to scalp from under $11 to this previous high here. That's another trade that I would have possibly taken had I been watching it, but I wasn't. Yeah, so right now kind of following our 50 moving average. Not that interested in it. It's doing a little bit of that consolidation number. If you imagine your trend lines being here and here, kind of coming to a tight consolidation, and then we'll see if it drops or perks up from there. More than likely drops, but you never know. To me, it seems more likely that this is going to be backside of the move and probably start to fade down. So I'd be looking a little hesitant on going long at that point. Then we had, let's see, IPDN. That was another one. I did draw a trend line on that one as well, but it was below VWAP by the time it actually made it. I was kind of watching it up in here, the bounce off of VWAP, because it ripped up from $1.50-ish to almost $1 to $2.40, then pulled back a little bit and then ripped through that. So that would have been the best trade would have been this break of the pre-market high right in this area, 240 or so, because from there it ripped all the way up here to over 540. So you could have got it. You had $3 a share right in there that you could have easily scalped $1 out of, $2 out of. So it had some opportunities there. This is where I miss my scanner because I still don't have a good scanner that I'm using, so I don't see these things popping up like nonstop over here in the corner of my screen as I did before when I was running my E-Trade scanner all the time. So miss a lot of moves like that. But anyway, that would have been a nice scalp. And then I was watching it here. It came to VWAP, bounced off, and then I was kind of watching to see how it reacted to this trend line. Wanted to possibly go long, maybe off a curl off of VWAP again, if it could double bottom at VWAP as support and then break that trend line. I thought perhaps it would curl, but it didn't until it was down underneath VWAP and the 50 moving average. And at that point, it's not checking all the boxes for me to like it very much. Let's see. Blockchain partnership is why that was up, by the way. There was news on it. Basically another blockchain Bitcoin hype type of news. Resistance at the 370 area, but it didn't really slow down there. I guess maybe that's why the bounce failed. But really not that much resistance. At a pretty low volume on those days. So, yeah. Kind of surprised it didn't hang around a little longer with Bitcoin being all over the news lately, that it didn't run a little more. That's why I was kind of watching it, thinking maybe with the higher volume and possibly breaking out with clear blue sky above it and being in the correct sector, the blockchain sector. The Bitcoin's been a little bit hot lately. Thought maybe it would run. It did not. What else? SGOC. This one I saw because it was getting halted, so I was seeing that on the halt screen. But again, these things are so dangerous once they get halted. I saw it on the second halt, and I'm not really looking to buy the second halt, so at that point it was kind of on my radar, but nothing too exciting. It went all the way up to, let's see, what was the high? 421. Went to 421, and now it's all the way back under $2. So hopefully you're not watching this and you're one of the unfortunate souls who chased this up here past the third halt, or fourth halt, or however many halts there were. I think it was 3, and then ended up with it gapping all the way down here and being below $2. Nothing real exciting about that. It was just a big move out of the gate, and unless you caught it down here, it would have felt like chasing, to me anyway. It was a nice clean breakout, but again, no news. If you look down here in the news, no readily available news anyway. Could be news that I don't see, but not readily available. Other than that, that's about all the only stocks I had on my little watch list thing that I was going to look at. If anybody is watching this and you want to talk about one, go ahead and throw that in the chat. We can pull it up and look at it. I'm kind of looking at some scanners here on my other screen, seeing if there's anything I missed. Let's see, GHSI. It says GHSI was another big one. I did not look at that one at all today, so it's a lower price, so it's under $1, but it is moving. Maybe a continuation. Yeah, so it's kind of been curling over the last several days, and then finally broke out today, but came all the way back down to retest those highs. We'll see kind of where it can go from here. There, if you look at the daily chart, this is the daily chart for 1 year, so we got a lot of consolidation up in that area. So yeah, it's going to have quite a bit to contend with if it's going to keep going, but it could. Just a little bit lower price stock. I don't typically focus on the ones that are under $1, but some people do. So something to look at. Neat was another one somebody had mentioned to me earlier that I did not look at yet. So let's see. Look at that. That's a pretty wild mover. So that one went from yesterday we were down in the 11s and rips up, then comes all the way back down, comes back up again, and this is another one that would be difficult to trade. This is why I say that the days have been the market's just been more choppy, which kind of weighs on momentum stocks, and you don't get the clean, big moves that you do, I don't know, in previous weeks when we've had a lot of exciting momentum. We're seeing now that the choppier market is taking its toll on the momentum stocks as well. So it comes up, and then it curls all the way back around. But if we zoom in, the trades that you could have taken would have been difficult, because if you're watching this, it's traded almost 50 million shares, which is a lot of shares. But it comes back down, has the big rip, continues up a little bit, then fails, and it's down here below VWAP, holds the 50 moving average, pops back through VWAP, which typically would be somewhat of a sign of strength, but then right away it fails and comes back down where it was. Then it comes back up and rips through VWAP and the 50 moving average again. But at this point, when you're thinking about taking a long on a VWAP break, you got this resistance to contend with and this resistance to contend with. So, in my head, I'm thinking this isn't very clean, buying it with all of that overhead resistance and then the high of day up here. So it turns out it would have worked, but again, I'm looking for pretty clean setups. You could have drawn a trend line here, and then kind of off the tops. So then as it broke VWAP and the 50 moving average and this trend line all at the same time, I guess that would have been a decent entry point. You could have taken that, but just don't have all the confidence in the world when I see a stock come down, go up, come back down to double bottom. Those aren't things that I really typically love to see for a long. Pop back over here. Bngo. Okay, so Nomad Traders wants to check out PED, and then Shamoon. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Probably not. But anyway, they want to check out Bngo again. We can look at that again quick. So PED, let's look at that. Oh my, look at that. Yeah, huge move end of day. I don't love this if we're looking at the daily chart down here. This would be my concern at the moment, would be the daily chart. Do we have some news, or are we just popping up? This looks similar, eerily similar to UUU the other day, which did not end up having news. And then, you know, the next day it went crazy up right out of the gate, but then it got halted, news pending, and of course there was no news, so then it dropped like a rock. And that's the kind of stuff you got to watch out for on moves like this. So it's making a really nice move. It's up $1 since market close, it looks like. Yeah, basically at market close it went crazy. So I'm thinking there could be news, but I don't know. Yeah, so that makes me nervous. If I was thinking about looking into this, I'd be looking to try to find if there's news, anything that came out. Why did it pop $1? Doesn't mean it can't keep running, because stocks run all the time without news. But I don't love this, so I wouldn't really like buying it right now up $1 without readily available news. Looking at possible resistance in the 230s and around 250. So when you're coming up on a couple different spots, it could end up being resistance, could end up being where it tops out, and then I don't see readily available news and it's up $1. Makes me a little nervous. It is still trying to keep going, so we'll see. And it has got a decent amount of volume came in on that spike. I'm going to bet that there's news. I just don't see it on E-Trade, just because it happened right at pretty much, you know, right at the bell. And a lot of times companies release news right at the bell. So it wouldn't surprise me if they put some little press release or something out at the bell that got it going. Definitely be a watch. If there's news especially, this could be a watch, because I'm pretty sure this is a previous runner. We got more consolidation here if we zoom out farther, up in the 270s. So I don't love the daily chart, but I'm pretty sure I remember this being a stock I've traded before that's had some big moves. So we'll just kind of watch it and see if any news comes out, or if anybody sees any news, put it out here. Okay, back to, wanted to look at Bngo again for somebody in the chat. This is the only one I traded today. It's a continuation. It does have, let's see if we zoom out more. If we zoom out here and look at the daily chart, it's another one that I don't love the looks of on the daily chart, because we've got a pretty downward trending chart here. Starting to curl, you know, put a bottom, it did put a bottom in, kind of start to curl. And the news, it does have news, which is a good thing. The biggest thing it has going for it is the volume, because it's traded almost 800 million shares, so all eyes were on it. But sometimes that can be a bad thing, because it can get overcrowded, which is what I think we saw in the 260s, is there was just like so many eyes on it. It couldn't break that, because every time it would get up in the mid 263, 264 area, people would just pile on it. Shorts, I'm sure, were piling on it, because the news isn't that amazing. They got an extension to regain compliance. So anyway, I was looking long up in here. That's where my loss came from. Switched my bias to short. That worked out nicely. And yeah, if I was gonna take a stab at what happens with it, knowing that we got the volume here, I wouldn't be surprised to see a spike at some point between now and maybe the opening bell tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if it spiked up a bit, but ultimately I think it's going to fade back down unless they have more news come back out. A lot of times what you'll see with charts that look like this, it gets pretty parabolic, pulls back pretty hard, all the way back down here under $2. So it did find a little bit of support around that $2 area, but we'll just have to watch it. I'd like to see it stay above the 200 moving average if it's going to continue. And of course, we need to see it consolidate and go for some kind of pop into the opening bell tomorrow. If not, then it likely will just keep fading back down in the ones. January 15th puts on Mara because they filed for an offer and looking for a move in next day or two. Mara's one that seems like it's popping up all the time. I watch it a lot. I saw it was popping up on the twits earlier today, but I didn't look at it. Looks like not for a good thing. So yeah, it's good for you. If you bought puts, nice work. Unless you just bought them at the bottom, but I'm assuming you probably did not. It's definitely up a lot. Even on the, if we look, this is 2 years that I'm looking at down here. So we've already had a curl. Then we had a nice cup and handle basically form right here. You see this nice cup, and then it kind of forms the handle and continues up and breaks out. And then mid sixes, it breaks out and goes all the way up to what, 1450 maybe even higher than that. Somewhere, yeah, 1466 or so. So yeah, nice huge move. Has come down quite a bit, but probably will come down more. So you're probably thinking correctly. It might be finding support in this area just like it did over here a few days ago. But yeah, the odds are, if I was going to guess, I wouldn't be surprised to see this continue down a little farther. APXT, F-cell, APXT and F-cell. And as we all know, everybody that, disclaimer, everybody that looks at the stock market knows that everything can change within an instant. What looks like a fading stock now could have news or a bunch of volume come in and rock it out of nowhere. So you really never know. It's just about playing the probabilities and the odds and trying to see what technical analysis you can find that might help you predict what it's going to do, barring any big changes in the overall market or news or something with the stock. So let's see. Zoom in a little more on the daily. So yeah, on the daily, it looks like it kind of double topped around 17 or a little above. We had that big gap up and that move up here. Then it came down and kind of double bottomed, bounced back up, a bit of a double top. Now it's come down a little more than I would like. If we were going to see continuation, I would have liked to have seen it stay up in the 16s. But, it's not out of the realm of possibility that it finds support in this area and then curls off of it. But it's also, stocks do love to fill gaps, and we still got this gap from 1270 to 1150-ish that has not filled yet. So I would be not too excited to go long at this point or be holding a bag. Let's look at 5 minutes on 14 days. Let's actually zoom out just a little bit more. Sometimes I like to look at shorter time frames, several days. You can kind of see the waves of the move. So maybe it'll consolidate here. I'm assuming that you're holding it or you wouldn't be asking. But this looks more bearish to me. So not very, from what I'm seeing here, I don't see a whole lot that I love as far as long setups at this point in time. It looks more bearish. It looks more like it would come down, like it's going to come down more. And then we'd be looking at this whole area consolidation here and seeing what happens if it can bounce at that point. So yeah, if I was going to guess at it now, I would say more downsize, but you never know. It's kind of consolidating a little bit right here. Could pop, but the odds are not in its favor. It's kind of down farther than this shoulder here. Yeah, if I was going to guess, I would say more downside is coming, barring some kind of news or something changing that scenario. F cell. This one I looked at earlier today. Let's see. This one looks a little bit similar to that other one, only it didn't double top, it continued up. So that's a little bit of a good sign. So it kind of had a monster move from under $3 to what was that, over 11, and then it came back down, found some support, came back up, and then it went ahead and made a new high. That's a good sign. So now we're back here testing the previous high, seeing if we can consolidate at this previous high level. That's a good sign, and then we'll see if there's going to be another leg up. If it starts heading south from here, then I would watch out. Possibly, yeah, there's not really even a clear trend line, but you could say it's kind of like that on the daily chart here. You can see it on this chart and on the daily chart. My favorite pattern kind of emerging there. You know, if we draw your little look at that beautiful bull pennant. You got your pole right there, then it consolidates tighter and tighter. And this is why I talk about, you know, you see this on all different time frames, this same pattern playing out on all different time frames. So when you're wanting to buy it is when it starts breaking out. It consolidates tighter and tighter, and then you'll either get a move back down or a move back up. And in this case, it made a move back up, and then it did break that previous high there. So that's a good sign. Now we're getting back down. It broke below for a minute, but quickly regained that high, and hopefully we can consolidate here. Maybe see another, you know, similar type of consolidation over the coming days, and then a move higher. That's what we're hoping for. Will that happen? I don't know, but I'd be watching it. If it starts coming down back under 10, then yeah, there's a fair chance that it could end up going down back down to 8. I'm looking for that area of support for it to really break down. Reading the comments here. Gap filled down, double top trend. Yep. Sounds like you're on the same page as me. We need some kind of news to get it to pop. So yeah, that's all we're doing really, is learning to see things as they develop and learning, you know, some technical analysis and patterns, probabilities, things like that. Of course, none of it is set in stone. I've seen, you know, many countless times over the years, I was sure that a stock was going to, you know, fade back down, and it all of a sudden out of nowhere ripped up. Got some news, got some volume, whatever the case. So you really never know. It's just a matter of trying to predict things and using probabilities and basic technical analysis. Try to come up with an idea and a plan, and then sticking to your plan, having the confidence to believe in your plan, and cutting the loss when it does not go according to plan. That is a very key thing. So make sure anybody that's new to trading, stick that in your mind. You got to have a plan when you enter a trade, and you got to cut it when it goes against your plan. If you don't, you become a bag holder, and we've all been there. So don't worry. It's going to happen to you if you're a new trader. It's inevitable. We've all held the bags. It's kind of how you learn, I guess, in some ways. It'd be nice if that didn't happen, but it does. Anyway, I think I'm going to get off of here. And it's been almost 40 minutes. Seems like that's kind of the typical time. I was running back in here trying to get on before it got too late. And NOVN, Big Prune also has gap fill. Yeah, that was one that I looked at earlier as well. That thing is, yeah, it's definitely my tools there. Yeah, so we do have a gap to fill up to 182 or so, I believe. Right in that 180, 182 area. It's got to get past this little top here. So, yeah, in theory, from the 130s to the 180s, if it can get past that, then in theory it should fill that gap. We do see gaps fill all the time. So hopefully it has some news, some volume, everything gets it moving, and in the coming days that can happen. It can break out past that high of this candle here. It did have some good volume on that day, so I would not be surprised to see quite a bit of resistance in that area. How much did it trade? Let me zoom in just a little bit on that day. 317 million shares traded on that day. So yeah, it's definitely it's traded 147 million today, about halfway there. So if you think about it like that, if 317 million shares were traded on that day and then it faded, you know there's going to be some bag holders, there's going to be some shorts piling on and all that. So definitely some areas to watch as it gets up in there. Okay, unless anybody has anything else they want to cover, I'm going to get off of here and go accomplish something else. That's my thoughts on the market for the day. I'm not any kind of an expert, just kind of learning along with you guys, but another green day. Can't complain about that. Hit my goal again today, another over $100 green day today. So that's good. Hopefully I can keep stringing those together, and then at some point I'll put more money in and scale up and just keep doing the same thing but bigger position sizes, which I actually could do now with my accounts, but I don't. I'm too scared. But having my goal hit enough days in a row is giving me some confidence that maybe I might be beginning to know what I'm doing. That's the hope anyway. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great evening. Happy trading tomorrow. Hopefully we'll all have big green days tomorrow. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the support. Thanks to everybody in the chat and everybody who hit the like button, subscribed, and all that wonderful stuff. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Peace.